Hello, my creeplings. Tonight, we are talking about my favorite teen vampire movie, released in 1987, The Lost Boys. Directed by Joel Schumacher, from a story by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias. They also worked on the screenplay with a man named Jeffrey Boehm. I do not follow their work, but I do want to give them credit. This was a summer release in 1987. It was released in July. You would think vampires, they'd save it for the fall. No, this was a summer hit, actually. This made a lot of money. It's beautifully acted, wonderfully shot. The effects are great, although I couldn't find anything on the effects house so that I could give them credit. But yeah, kudos to you guys. The stunts were good. The music the soundtrack is just, it's iconic. A lot of what's in this movie is iconic. The cast is just ridiculously amazing. This is our first Corey's movie. Both Corey Haim and Corey Feldman are in this film. We have Jason Patric as Michael. Corey Haim is his brother, Sam. Diane Wiest is their mother, Lucy. They had thought she wouldn't do this film because she had just won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, but she was game to do the movie. I'm honestly surprised because when you get an Academy Award, you don't have to do films like this anymore. But she did such a wonderful job. You have Kiefer Sutherland as the head of our Lost Boys gang, David. This movie just solidified in my brain that not only is Kiefer Sutherland a great leading man, you know, he carried an entire TV series for how many seasons? But he's an amazing character actor as well. The things that he can do with his gaze and his facial expressions in this one, sends shivers down my spine. This whole thing. Strangely enough, we have a young Alex Winter. Bill S. Preston Esquire himself plays one of our vampires. I'm just gonna say it. I kept thinking of Bill and Ted every time I saw that. When I put two and two together, you know, sometime in my mid-teens, I'm like, dude, that is Bill S. Preston Esquire. I am never, ever going to see Marco, that's the character's name, the same again, and I never have. That's kind of how my brain works sometimes. You have the Frog Brothers. Edgar is played by Corey Feldman. I know I'm going to get my Corys mixed up. I know them in my brain, but sometimes my mouth goes a little crazy. So Corey Feldman is Edgar Frog. Jameson Newlander is Alan Frog. Yeah, so Edgar and Alan Frog, the Frog Brothers. This is a nod to the writer Edgar Allan Poe. I remember reading that somewhere years and years ago. You have Jamie Gertz as our love interest Star. You have two great 80s character actors. Edward Herrmann plays Max. Now, I remember him most from voiceovers for commercials in the late 80s to mid 90s. I do know he was in like The Great Gatsby with Robert Redford, and I know he's been in a lot of stuff. It's just, there's so much that my brain just kind of goes, stop. And the same thing with Bernard Hughes, who plays Grandpa in this one. Most people my age remember him from Blossom, where he played Blossom's grandfather. He also did a lot of voiceovers. The man's just done a lot of stuff. He usually plays a crotchety grandpa in anything I've seen him in. But Grandpa is my favorite character in this movie. He is a crusty, old, grumpy codger. And he gets one of the best last lines in any movie I have. It's one of my top 10 best last lines ever in any movie. I will gush about Grandpa later. So getting to our story, Michael, Sam, and Lucy, their family has broken up. Dad has divorced Mom. They're flat broke. They are moving back to Mom's hometown of Santa Carla. Santa Carla is a coastal town in California. It has a nice boardwalk. In the opening, as they're driving up, and there's the Welcome to Santa Carla billboard, you get a shot behind it where there's graffiti. The graffiti says "Murder Capital of the World." Apparently, it's worse than Detroit. Sorry, Detroiters. I had to do it. Opening montage, you get to see all kinds of characters that populate this town. And then you also see in the background a lot of missing people posters. And we're not just talking about, rash of runaway teens and their posters. No, we're talking little kids to adults. There's a ridiculous amount of missing posters for this town. We get to Grandpa's house. Now, Grandpa lives out in the boonies in what looks like an old hunting lodge. Old bachelor likes to live alone out in the middle of nowhere in a hunting lodge whose hobby is taxidermy. Yeah, Grandpa's crazy. In a good way. He's a crazy old coot. And again, I'm just going to say it. I love this character. So once the family gets settled in, the kids start spending a lot of time on the boardwalk, and Mom actually gets a job on the boardwalk at a video store owned by a man named Max. She will be working the day shift because Max works the night shift. More on that later. Sam starts hanging out at a comic shop where the Frog Brothers work. Their first encounter is kind of interesting. First, they insult Sam's fashion sense because Sam's a bit on the trendy side, and they're not. They look like they shop at the Army Navy surplus store. There's a reason for this. They hand him a comic. I believe it's called Vampires Everywhere. And Sam's like, I'm not into horror comics. And Corey Feldman, the voice he's using for this film, it's like your little brother just watched Dirty Harry. This one might save your life. Okay, Edgar. So Sam takes it and starts reading it. At the same time, Michael's spending a lot more time on the boardwalk at night. He notices a very pretty, very sensual, very hypnotic girl named Star. This is where Jamie Gertz's character comes in, and with the dark curly hair and the dark eyes and the gypsy-ish way they dress her, the ethereal kind of... It's like she almost raided Stevie Nicks' closet, but not quite. And the way she walks, that hip sway, yeah, I was even entranced. I tried to walk like that for like 2 years. I just realized even though I have hips, my hips don't do that. They're at a concert. She clocks him, clocking her, and she turns on the charm. Soon enough, they're kind of, I guess, playing the getting to know you game, but she hangs out with this biker gang of teenage ruffians led by David. It's David, Marco, and two others. I don't even know if they actually mentioned their names. Star and a little boy, and I mean little boy. We're talking like somewhere between 8 and 10. Little boy named Laddie. The older boys, yeah, I'm just gonna say it. These guys, whoo! I grew up watching that movie, and I grew up watching that movie, if you know what I mean. They're all just, beautiful jawlines, wonderful faces. Oh, good Lord. They went for the sexy, and they got the sexy. Although, again, every time I see Marco, I think of Bill from Bill and Ted. But that's my defect. That is my defect, not on Alex Winter at all. Although there is a side note on that one. It's like they let his little curly blonde hair grow out, and then they gave him some really bad, like, rat tail style extensions. And it's just, they could have done better. Because the other guys, I mean, Kiefer Sutherland He had that kind of spiky mullet going on, and the other two guys had such long flow. Oh, especially the guy who looks like he might be Italian or Latino. Oh, his hair is the end. And I've got good hair, but good Lord, I was envious of that hair growing up. I just get hotter. I'm kidding. I will stop gushing about them. Just know that they are a teenage biker gang. They're ridiculously good looking, and they terrorize the boardwalk. They show up at Max's video store and start trying to cause trouble. He kicks them out. They eventually get Michael to start hanging out with them because he really wants to be with Star. And they take him to their hangout, hideout, clubhouse. I don't know what you want to call it. But it's got an interesting story. Back at the turn of the century, now we're talking about the early 1900s, apparently there was a huge fancy hotel on the coast. When the big earthquake hit in San Francisco, it caused rumbles in Santa Carla. That the hotel was just swallowed up into the fault line. So they're kind of hanging out in the rubble of the ballroom. The set is just so interesting and beautifully made. This scene is a very good scene because you kind of... David does a mind fuck. Pardon my language, but David does a mind fuck on Michael that is just over Chinese food. That is just classic. It shows a good example of what a vampire glamour would be. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's how I see that. He's messing with his mind with his vampire powers, and it reads very, very well. They also get Michael to drink what he thinks is wine. It was red, honey, but it wasn't wine. Shortly after this, Sam goes back to the comic book store, and those two Frog Brothers give him another comic book, yet another vampire comic book. He's like, dude, I don't like horror comics. And they're like, no, our number's on the back of this. Pray you never have to call us. Thank you, Corey Hell Feldman. Excuse me. Sam starts to notice changes in Michael. He's staying out all night, wearing sunglasses all day. His fingernails are growing. He starts to suspect there's something up with Michael. There's one night Michael's staying home with Sam. And Michael goes to attack Sam in the bathtub. But the dog saves the day. They have a husky or a Malamute named Nanook. Good boy, Nanook. Such a good boy. He attacks Michael. Bites through his hand. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And Sam kind of like, you're turning into a vampire. Especially when they see that Michael's reflection is fading. Like he's transparent in the mirror. So he goes to the Frog Brothers and like, well, you're going to have to kill him. And he's like, no, he's my brother. And I think he's only half vampire anyway. If we can, according to this comic you gave me, if we can find the head vampire and kill him, all halves will turn back to normal. So they make it their mission to figure out who the head vampire is. Now, Lucy has started dating Max. And I don't know how he makes this leap of logic. Because really, he doesn't know Max. He doesn't know anything much about Max at all. But he's like, all this started when my mom started working at Max's video store. And Sam's like, and he's never there during the day. Maybe he's the head vampire. Huge jump of logic there. So Lucy invites him to dinner. Max is knocking on the door as Mike's going to leave. Max does something a little odd. Well, you're the man of the house and I won't come in until you invite me. Michael just thinks he's being weird and says, okay, you're invited. The Frog Brothers are also over for dinner and they put Max through some vampire tests. You know, crap ton of garlic on the spaghetti, dumping holy water on him, turning the lights off to see if he glows, that kind of stuff. Grandpa has decided not to join the dinner party. He takes his plate of spaghetti and goes into his taxidermy room, but he's kind of mean mugging. He opens the doors, he's mean mugging Max quite a bit. So you almost kind of wonder what's going on with that, too. Excuse me. It's allergy season. My throat's really dry from my allergy medication, so please excuse me. So they're like, okay, well, Max isn't the head vampire. Who is it? They theorize it might be David. They go to the hideout, and they find Star and Laddie sleeping in beds because apparently they're half vampires as well. Star and Michael had gotten together the night before because Michael went to go confront her about what was going on with him and them, and she pretty much confirmed it. And then she comes back and confirms it later in another scene. They find the boys hanging upside down in the cave. Yeah, sleeping vampire style, hanging upside down. So Edgar, the mind that he is, decides he's going to try and stake them all. He gets little Marco, and then they all start freaking out. The three older boys, come to wake up out of their torpor, and the Frog Brothers and Sam are screaming. Michael has gotten Laddie and Star out to the car. It is chaos. I mean, it is complete and total, utter chaos. They manage to escape because it's still daylight. And David is trying to grab after them, and his hand gets torched by the sunlight. And he's like, oh, we'll get you tonight. So they get everybody back to Grandpa's house. Mom's already going out with Max, so they don't have to worry about that. They tell Grandpa that his girlfriend said, don't forget that, you have a date tonight. Pick me up at 7 instead of 8. There was no date with his girlfriend. But it was a way to get Grandpa out of the house. This is your great 80s montage moment. Gathering holy water, garlic, sharpening stakes, locking the doors, all this great stuff. So yes, the vampires do attack the boys at home. We get some very good gore and kill effects in this one. Melting from holy water, which apparently, if you melt a vampire in your tub with holy water, it's going to make all the plumbing in your house explode, full of goopy red-brown ick. But the melting effect was so cool. And we get another assist by Nanook. Good boy, Nanook. I love that dog. Yes, I'm a dog lover. I'm a cat lover. And anytime we get a good boy like that, I'm going to do good boy. And Huskies and Malamutes are my favorite. I will reiterate that again. We get Death by Stereo. That was a good one. I still refer to that to this day. And then David. There's a fight between Michael and David, and they're using their vampiric strength and flying abilities, but David is impaled on antelope antlers. And it's a really cool effect how they don't ash out. And they don't crumble in the dust. They just die. But there's heat that comes, steam that comes off their bodies, and the anguish on his face. Like I said, Kiefer Sutherland is an amazing actor. And this just reminded me of how amazing of a character actor he is. Yeah. But David's still kind of vamped out, and Star doesn't feel any different, so David was not the head vampire. At the same time, Lucy and Max show back up. It turns out Sam and the frogs were right. Max was the head vampire. And he did it. Well, he had the boys for a while. He figured if he got Michael and Sam, he could get Lucy because he wanted a mother for his boys. He's got Sam in a headlock. She's got no choice. She reaches out her hand to be taken, and you hear Grandpa's car. Well, Grandpa drives a Jeep, whose horn plays La Cucaracha. Grandpa's got sharpened fence poles because he was working his fence. Still on the Jeep. He comes crashing into the house and stops the Jeep just fast enough. Max gets impaled with one of the fence posts. Blows up. Everybody's covered in soot and ash, but everything's okay. Grandpa, this is why this is my favorite line in the entire history of Grandpa's lines. Walks in. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, we're okay. Lucy's like, Dad. Walks into the kitchen, opens the fridge, grabs a Hires root beer. I remember the brand. Hires root beer, because I can still find it occasionally. I always think of Grandpa when I see it. Opens her up, takes a big old swig, looks right at the camera, like he's looking at Lucy, and he says, "There's one thing about Santa Carla I never could stomach." Takes another swig, I think. All the goddamn vampires. Fucking Grandpa knew the entire goddamn time. That's why he lived outside of town. That's why he didn't go into town. I think that's why he was mean mugging Max. He knew something was going on. Dude, though, seriously, this movie is freaking amazing. When they do finally vamp out, the vamp out effects, they look more demonic than like Bela Lugosi. The contact lenses that they use are really eerie. Like I said, the effects for Death by Stereo and Holy Water Melt, great. It's not a super gore effects heavy, but where it is very useful. David does take Michael out, and he's like, "Now you know what we are, and now you know what you are. You're never going to get sick. You're never going to grow old, but you must feed." Just after they attacked a group of people around a bonfire, and those gore effects are amazing too. One of the other things about this soundtrack, this movie, is this soundtrack, the music that was used, the songs. This has become like a talking point. You've got Lou Gramm, was the lead singer of Foreigner at the time. He did a song called Lost in the Shadows, which was really, really good. Echo and the Bunnymen covered The Doors' People Are Strange. I didn't know it was a cover at first because it's so close to the original. I don't know why they didn't just get the original, but that's what got me into The Doors. And then you've got the theme song, Cry Little Sister, by a band I believe called Carfax Abbey. Oh my, that one is in not only my Halloween season playlist, but that is in my regular 80s playlists. My gothy weird music play. Oh, it is just, ugh. And then the actual score is an interesting mix of synth and organ music. It gives you some great organ stings. It's just, I cannot praise this movie enough. This is one of, like, my mom likes this movie, and my mom hates horror movies. My mom absolutely hates horror movies, but she likes this one. I think that's why I can count this as one of my first real, I sat and watched the whole thing, uncut, on VHS, horror movies, without having to sneak around to watch it, because my mom actually liked it. Unfortunately, there were 2 sequels. I have seen one of them. And I'm told the third one's just as bad, if not worse. I tried. I honestly tried, and it did nothing for me. Stick with the original. Get the soundtrack if you can get a hold of it. Enjoy some hot biker vampire action. Some great actors in their youthful prime. Some wonderful character actors doing what they do best. Grandpa being an old coot. I just cannot praise this movie enough. This is one of the, I know I use the word iconic a lot, but for me, this is like the standout icon of 80s vampire flicks. This changed the face of vampires. Because pre-1987, they weren't, if they were doing teen vampire stuff, it was strictly for comedy or for children. It wasn't this violent. It wasn't this sexy. This kind of paved the way for things more like Buffy and the Vampire Diaries. I'm not saying it's directly responsible, but if the Lost Boys hadn't come, I don't think those would have had the same kind of flavor that they ended up having. Go buy it. Go watch it. Stream it. Get it from the library. Illegally download it. I don't care. I just want you to watch this film. It is so worth the time. And the extras are worth watching as well. So on that one, I'm going to say goodnight, my creeplings. I'm going to say I'll see you next time. And I'm just going to say thank you again for being here with me. With all the fidgeting and the ums and my brain moving faster than my mouth. You guys have made this a lot of fun. Just thanks. A lot. You guys have a good one.